Welcome, Salvaged Plastic Hubs, Jim Dedman. Hope you enjoyed today's video that I put together for you. We're always doing something interesting here in the shop. Stick around, watch the video, enjoy, comment. Thank you. This is my plate, and there's been some problems. It's called Bozo. And basically what's happened here is I've made a mess. And it's what I tried to do was draw lines and scribe this thing and then fit it into the chuck and mill it and line the lines up to get my 180 degrees here. Well, we've not had too much success with it. It won't fit. So I've got two choices. One, I've got another piece of material starting all over, and that still may be a viable option, and getting my rotary table up out of the bottom and putting it up, and it's heavy, and but the other thing is I don't want to throw away my material. I mean, I could save that and use pieces of it for whatever. So what I'm going to try to do here to see if I can save this thing is to go back and line everything up and try to cut these slots wider, because it doesn't really matter how much you got here as long as you've got some area. I mean, it won't be symmetrical and it won't look pretty. But you can see the problem if you really look at it. This thing is so far out of 180 degrees. So I'm going to sit here and come up and see if I can come up with a way. I mean, worst come to worst, I'll take the vise off. I'm going to have to take the vise off, put the rotary table on to be able to travel this thing. I done know that. So the worst case scenario for me right now is to have to mount the rotary table and try to save it that way. I may go in and try to saw it out. I'm still debating. I'm going to get some stuff out here and come up with a solution or an idea, and then we're going to come back. So hang loose. Okay, here we go. Here's the problem. I've already explained it. These three slots are not 180 degrees out. Basically, they're off. The way I done this is I tried to lay this out, and instead of laying out on a center line, this would have worked if I'd have used a center line. Because then, in other words, if I'd have tuck and scribed center lines off the center of each of the chucks and went a distance each side, this would have been a viable idea. That ain't what I did, so it didn't work. So here's what we're going to do. We could either put this thing back in the mill and try to mill it, or do what I'm going to do is the quick and dirty method. I'm going to scribe it. I'm going to take the porta band and I'm just going to saw these off the lines and see if I can get it into the chuck, in between the chuck jaws. And then we'll proceed from there. I figured out the deal. It's the radius circle. I guess they do have such a thing as a radius circle. And they do. I got confused. Okay, bolt hole, circle. 0, 0, 0 radius. I want 3 inch, so it'd be a 1/2 inch and a half bolt hole. I'm going to start at 0 degrees with the 3 holes. Now that makes sense to move it to 1.5 inches. So that was my bad. So you learn something every day. Being as what I'm dealing with, I'm not so certain I'm going to be in the middle of 0. And I've just kind of got these setting up on parallels by hand. I'm just going to go in there and drill these very carefully. I may go ahead, in fact, because I've got such a wonky setup, I think I'm just going to hand tap these. I'll try it. What I'm afraid this is going to do is move a little bit. tighten it just a little more, because this is a wonky setup because there's just not a lot of support in this. There we go. All right. Let me get my tapping fluid out here. And let's get the tap out and see if we can power tap these things. I'll deburr these later. So we'll try to power tap this sucker right fast. See what happens. What I'm curious is what's going to happen number 2 and 3 holes because of the positioning problems of all this being solved so funky. So put a little bit of goat juice on the tap. Tap is really not, whoa, that tap is not wanting to do right. Let's be safe here. And as you can see here, by looking at how these holes look in these plates, you can see how much all this stuff's off. One of the things that I thought about now, you know, hindsight, I could have done this way by putting a stop here and using the part in the mill. This is kind of the way I milled it, and took and done a bolt hole circle pattern like where I wanted it to come out here, and then done 2 different bolt hole patterns, and that way I could have lined the bolt holes up with the milling cutter, and that would have been one way to do this without using the rotary table, and I didn't think about it. So that'd been one way for me to do this. So you can see how my hole pattern come out with this. And I had to kind of work that around to get my holes. This is for set screws to fit inside the plate. So let me get the tap started, and then we'll go over to the drill press and put the chamfers in, and then we'll have to go to the mill. The lathe, and I got to reface this because this is all scarred up. And see, I'm just going to hand tap this, and you'll see why on this one, because I'm going to go ahead and hand tap this one. This morning I'm having a little, see if you'll notice that this is pretty deep, and this is not pretty, and this is not what I want. I'm gonna be honest, this is some shoddy work, but you know, I'm gonna say this not in my defense, but to be honest, this is a piece from my home shop that I'm not going to use that often. And while I got another piece of material and I could have drilled it and turned it and done all that all over again and made a really nice piece, the point I'm getting at is this is a expensive piece of material, and for what I'm going to do with this, and we're going to be using it more or less for a work stop. And you've seen people who make these by welding, I'm going to say, by welding up material. Then, this will be acceptable. Is it perfect? Lord, no. I almost don't want to make a video of it, but I want to be honest with my subscribers and everybody out there, and you can sometimes take a mistake like this and get something usable out of it. So that's kind of my point. Okay, what I've done, I didn't walk off, leave the chuck. I'm in putting the camera in. What I'm doing is just to make sure that I've got this good and square in my chuck. I cut my center and just pushed it up with it. We're going to go back in here. Now it's got scratches and things on it from moving this thing around so much. So what I'm going to do here is back this off, take a couple of thousandths, turn up my RPM, take us a light face cut off of each side from where we just scarred this thing up and all that. Hopefully this will not get chips and scar it some more. We're going to take I had it going backwards for something else. So I'm just going to take a light face cut. I really didn't want to do that, but all this monkeying around, scribing and scratching and burrs and whatever else, I want this to be fairly clean. So to accomplish that, I'm going to take a couple of thou off each side to give me a good slick face. And instead of depending on my hand to pressure it in, we'll put the tailstock in the hole. Then we'll get our set screws and put them in it and figure out what we need on that and get all that fixed today, and we'll have this project wrapped up. And I'm going to repeat this probably for the 5th time in this video. I'm not happy with the way this turned out because I screwed up. This ain't bozo. This was me using improper technique. It wasn't anything to do with something work holding or whatever. I just flat goofed up. There's just no other argument, So there's just times you got to sit down and say, okay, how am I going to make this usable? And that's what I'm doing. Is this the best way to make one of these? No. I'd advise you not to make it this way. I would be completely honest with you. I do not like the way that looks. Tell you what I'm going to do. You see how that's sort of fuzzy? I'm going to go in here. You don't want fuzzy. We'll go in here and take about 2 thousandths, reverse the feed and feed from the inside out. See if that'll fix it. See if that'll give us a slick finish. I'll bring you back when I get this pulled all the way out. There we go. Hope you can see that, but this is nice and slick now. Not near as kind of funky looking. Now I'm going to turn this over and we'll do the same thing to the other side. Okay, now here's what we want to do, and basically what we got here is these set screws that goes to the back of this plate. And the set screws are on a 3-inch bolt circle. Where 3 inches come from. And I want you to notice that I'm a little bit, I done one of these off camera. So what this will do is you just take the wrench, you tighten it a little bit, it'll move. So you want to tighten it till it gets to 0. And then this little granite comparator, this is what this stuff right here is good for. And I just set an arbitrary length. You know, what you would do is you would decide how thick you would get it, and you would run one screw somewhere close and make that one screw your 0 point. So I'm just learning. So what I'm doing is just when you tighten it up, it's going to pull it a little bit. And if I tighten it to 0 and I get a little bit off, like in this case, I need to go a hair bit more. So it's going to move. So. Okay, so now you just check them. Just like that. So now you got your depth set on your plate. Real simple way of doing it. Okay, so here's what we have. There's our plate. I've got this set for about 1/4 of an inch right now. This it's a demonstration, but you see, this is going to be completely serviceable. While it's not perfect, and I'm not going to deny the fact that we had some tactical errors with this plate. What I wanted to do today, and I've been studying on it ever since Friday when I was actually shooting the footage and working on it, and this completely, you know, I thought this was going to work no problem. And ultimately, I was this way off. So, you know, the bottom line is I had to figure out a way to salvage. I could have made a new plate. But I'm just, you know, why? I mean, I guess my argument is, what's the purpose? If I do need this to be a little truer, this way I can go back and make a spider to go inside the chuck here and mount to this 1/2-inch hole. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll use it when we have it. And if we run into that case, we need to do something else, it's always available to work on. So there it is on the chuck. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the completed project. And like I said, I really debated on this thing and what to do with it after I realized I just plain screwed up. And I just really got to thinking, how can I, you know, what could I do? So there's a lot of lessons learned, and this isn't the perfect piece. But it will work and it will be functional. That's the difference. Is it's just really crazy looking. And it's not my best work. However, it will serve the purpose intended. So, with all that being said, this is the finish of my spider project. I hope that, you know, you go to the closing and you'll hear the typical what I say, but I hope you really understand that sometimes you can take a mistake and still salvage something out of it. And that's what I'm actually doing with this, is to say everything don't always turn out perfect. So sometimes you have to be able to improvise to make it work. I mean, again, this is a shop tool. You wouldn't want to send something like this out to a customer. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't want somebody to give this to me. But for me to use in my shop, it'll be acceptable. And that's the piece that I really want to stress here. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and hope you learned that sometimes you can take your mistake and get something out of it still useful. So that's the whole point. So till the next video. thank you for watching today's video. This is Jim. This, by the way, I will remind you, this is a copyrighted production of James Dedman, Salvaged Plastic Hubs, for your personal enjoyment here on YouTube. The other thing I want to do is quickly thank everybody that's out here, that's visited my channel, that views, that comments. Our channel is growing thanks to you, and I want to send you a sincere thanks. Thank you, and have a great day, and we will see you in the next video.